9440. 4405. 944405. 05.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jon Garlick, and I'm here with my good friend Lieutenant Fallon Hurst, and this is Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Hello, Fallon.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well.
Well, your folks did well last week. Let's take a look at the count.
We got 3 new ones this week, up to 5,185.
Wow, 5,185 people brought to justice because the citizens of Calhoun County cared enough to call in.
That's right, our friends in the community.
The friends in the community. Community policing is what sheriff's offices are all about.
It is.
So what's your community policing message now?
Well, it's starting to get warm. Well, day to day, you know.
Where have you been?
Mother Nature plays that ping pong game with us
My
right
azaleas have all died because of the frost.
now. They don't know what to do.
No, they don't.
But people are getting ready for the summer, and so they've got different toys in the car, getting ready for the beach. Keep your car locked up. That's what we ask.
Keep your car locked up. People will be jiggling door handles here anytime soon. And also, stay with us because we have the first half of the lineup coming up and a really interesting guest here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. And welcome to this week's edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted. The first half of our lineup brought to you by Abe's Ace Bail Bonds. Abe's Ace Bail Bonding, 256-831-0074. First up in our lineup this week, Quintora Chapman. Mr. Chapman, last known to be living in Anniston, he's wanted for failure to appear for burglary third. And this is Julia Burns. Miss Burns, last known to be living in Anniston, she's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a controlled substance. And we'd like you to take a look at Matthew White. Mr. White, last known to be living in Southside, he's wanted for a probation violation for domestic violence, burglary second. And this is Ricky Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert, last known to be living in Birmingham, he's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a controlled substance, use and possession of drug paraphernalia, and theft of property fourth. And meet Kristen Milam. Miss Milam, last known to be living in Oxford, she's wanted for failure to appear on chemical endangerment of a child. And that's it for the first half of the lineup. Stay tuned for the second half later in the show. Hello and welcome back. We hope that you saw somebody in that half of the lineup. You might know where they are, and if you do, give Fallon Hurst a call. You call, he hauls. We are here with Elaine Young, director of the Calhoun, is it Calhoun or Cleburne? Both?
Yeah, both.
Calhoun Cleburne Child Advocacy Center. And you've been doing that job for a long time.
22 years.
22 years, oh my goodness. See, you were there when I first got involved with everything I was getting involved with.
Right.
Now, Elaine, why don't you tell us, for our viewers, what the Child Advocacy Center is and does?
We are the liaisons between law enforcement, the DA's office, and DHR. And we provide a place for kids to come and be interviewed when there's a report of abuse. And we provide a place where law enforcement and DHR and whoever needs to can watch that interview in real time so that everybody can start their investigation at the same time and everybody has the same information. And the child only has to talk one time.
And that's important, that the child only has to talk one time. And,
very important.
And Fallon, your wife's a counselor.
She is.
And has some experience working with that population.
She does. She works with children a lot.
Yeah. And so back in the day, 40 years ago, before we had child advocacy centers, that process was radically different, wasn't it?
Radically different.
So what used to go on?
What used to go on was that children often report to teachers. So we'll use an example of a child at school reporting to a teacher. Teacher would take the child to the office or maybe to the counselor if they had a counselor, or to the nurse. The child would tell that person. Then the child would have to tell the principal. Principal would make a decision whether to call DHR or law enforcement. DHR may come to the school, interview the kid. Law enforcement often went to the home to interview the kid, and sometimes DHR also. So the kid may talk to 5 people before the investigation even is really started. And then there's the DA's office and whoever else had to talk to them during the process. And so it kind of, the first Child Advocacy Center was in Huntsville, and that center is still there. It's the National Child Advocacy Center. And so that was where it all started, and it started with a child telling the DA during court prep, do you people not talk to each other? Because I've already told this story to this person and that person. Do y'all not talk to each other? And so he kind of had the idea that maybe we could do it better.
Wow.
And I think we do it a lot better now.
Oh, you do an amazing job. So yeah, it's very traumatizing for these kids to have to share their story even one time.
Sure.
Let alone 4 or 5 times, let alone in the home environment where this abuse may have taken place.
Right, yeah.
So the National Child Advocacy Center is in Huntsville.
It is.
And this was the first child advocacy center in the nation then?
In the nation.
So Alabama, first state in the nation to do child advocacy center,
Right.
first state in the nation to do public television, by the way.
We've done a lot of stuff first. I think we were the first 911 also. Were we
Yeah,
not?
first 911. Pretty amazing.
We do some pretty important things first.
We do some pretty important things first. Wow, that's amazing. So now your center allows the child to do it one time. And if they have to go to court, do you work with those kids too if they have to actually testify?
We do. And we offer counseling. You know, every child that comes through is welcome to come for counseling if they need it or if their parents just want them to. The whole family can come for counseling. And we do all that at no charge to them. But then we follow them throughout the process. And so whether they're coming for counseling or not, when it comes time for a court process, we're going to get together with them. We're going to take them to the courthouse. We're going to practice with them. We're going to help them to get comfortable with what they're going to have to do.
And you deal with children in various age ranges, yes?
Yes.
So what is the youngest child?
Well, the youngest child that we interview is 2, and that usually doesn't go very well, but sometimes you just want to try to. Usually with 2-year-olds, it's more of a physical abuse than a sexual abuse thing, and you just want to try. It doesn't usually go well, but we do a lot of 3-year-olds and up. And the oldest, you know, we'll do them through age 18, but sometimes law enforcement will have somebody that maybe has a limited mental capacity. And so we'll work with some of those adults as well.
So you don't necessarily work with adults, say that they're in their mid-40s and they've finally decided they needed to come forward with some.
Well, not typically, but I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't happen very often though, does it, Fallon?
It
actually
more
does,
than you would,
yeah.
more than you would
It
think.
actually
Yeah.
does. They usually don't want to come to us for counseling, but occasionally there'll be somebody that just feels safe when they talk to us.
Well, you have some wonderful counselors working for you. How big a staff do you have?
Right now we have 5.
5 counselors?
No,
Oh.
5 total.
5
we
total.
we have a family advocate, and she mostly works with the parents, teaching them about the court processes, giving them all the phone numbers and people to contact for the various things, the DHR worker or the law enforcement. She helps them fill out paperwork if they need victims' compensation. She will fill out the paperwork and contact Children's Hospital if they need a medical done. So she does that piece, the family piece, and then we have a front office person. She's kind of my right arm. And so she does the finances, she does the scheduling, she does some of the grant reporting, just whatever I need her to do. And then we have myself and 2 counselors. And I do counseling there as well. So we kind of have 3 counselors, but
Okay.
I don't do that full time.
Right. But 3 counselors is good. And then you have interns working for you through JSU's
We do.
program so that they can gain experience in that.
We do.
Yeah, my wife interned there for a little
She
while.
did. She did.
That's a great experience.
That's how I know
I think
her
that's
wife.
where she got her liking for working with children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend that to my students at JSU all the time to go to child advocacy.
We appreciate that because they're always good.
Yeah, it's a great experience, and you guys do some wonderful work. So we're going to take a break in just a few seconds, but and we'll talk about the prevalency of this problem. But before we do that, how do you get people to contact you? How do you get referrals?
We have an interagency agreement with DHR, law enforcement agencies, and the DA's office. So they don't really have a choice.
I gotcha.
It's
But people don't just call you on the phone. You don't get a call.
not typically. Now we do sometimes. There'll be somebody who had an abuse case in another county or another state, and they somehow will get our number and say, you know, my child needs counseling, needs to continue counseling or whatever, and we will see those kids as well.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have the second half of the lineup, and then we'll be talking more to Elaine Young about the Child Advocacy Center here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. And welcome to the second half of our lineup. This half brought to you by A1 Freedom Bail Bonding. A1 Freedom Bail Bonding, 256-236-7888. And first up this half, Jonathan Holder. Mr. Holder, last known to be living in Anniston, he's wanted on a probation violation for domestic violence, criminal mischief, second, and attempting to elude. And meet Shalicia Williams. Miss Williams, last known to be living in Atlanta, Georgia. She's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a forged instrument. And take a look at Carly Green. Miss Green, last known to be living in Jacksonville. She's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a controlled substance and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. And this is Michael Bentley. Mr. Bentley, last known to be living in Anniston, he's wanted on a failure to appear for assault second and manufacturing of a controlled substance. And meet Donald Sanders. Mr. Sanders, last known to be living in Pell City, he's wanted on a probation violation for assault second. And that's it for our lineup this week. If you have any information on these cases, please give Crime Stoppers a call. That number, 1-833-251-7867. Welcome back. We hope you saw somebody in that half of the lineup. You know where they are. If you do, call the Sheriff's Office, call Fallon, Hurst. You call, they haul. We're here with Elaine Young, Director of the Child Advocacy Center of Calhoun and Cleburne counties, and we're talking about some of the great work that you guys do. But to clarify, this work, as we were talking off air, is not for everybody. If you're into counseling and you're thinking, wow, I want to do counseling at the Child Advocacy Center. I love kids. This work requires some special skill sets and some special, tolerance, yes?
It does. First of all, it requires some training in forensic interviews, and that's a process. And normally we go through the National Child Advocacy Center to get that training, and we also facilitate that training often, or I do. I go over there and help new interviewers learn how to interview kids. And it's a very specific process, and there's protocol, and you have to know the things in particular not to say. You don't want to lead a kid into making a disclosure that's not real. And you want to give the child a chance to tell their story in their words, and it's important to know how to do that. And counselors learn some of that, but counselors don't learn the part about how to not show a lot of emotion when a kid is telling a really serious disclosure. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot of practice, I think, and it really isn't for everybody, because we get some really bad cases, we get some really sad stories.
Yeah, and counselors have very high levels of empathy, and so that means there's a risk of internalizing a whole bunch of negative emotions.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of specific self-care, even more so than just general counseling.
Yes, it really does.
Well, and that's important. So, Fallon, how prevalent is this problem of child abuse?
It's pretty significant. I mean, part of my job is being over the SROs in the county, so I see a lot of the reports the SROs are doing from people, kids that are disclosing to teachers, or teachers are picking up on things, and then just the general public there also. It's more than anyone would know.
And so how many, you keep track of this, and
we do
and
keep
this
track
is,
of it.
We're coming up on an awareness period.
We are.
Yeah.
April is Child Abuse Awareness Month.
And you put those little pinwheels, you still put the pinwheels in?
We still put the pinwheels.
So how many?
Well, this year the number is in the 370s. In years past, we've had as many as 500 cases for a year.
And that's just for the previous year?
And that's just, yeah. So it's
Have
a
you
problem.
noticed during the last couple of years while we were all locked down on the pandemic, an increase or a decrease in the reporting?
That's an interesting question.
We actually had a decrease. Some of the centers had increases once school started back. We did not. I'm sure that abuse was happening with nobody to tell, and a lot of the abuse probably during those times was more likely to be physical because stress brings on more physical abuse, and once bruises go away, kids tend to forget about that unless it's just ongoing.
Interesting, because there has been a national trend, I think I've read, that there's been an increase in
There
abuse
has
since
been,
the
yeah.
pandemic. So,
Yeah.
interesting that ours would be a little lower. So, 370 cases, is that what you said, for
Yes.
the last year? That's a lot
Still
for our
significant.
county.
It is. It is.
And that's multiple jurisdictions, right? That
Right.
includes Cleburne County, too.
It includes Cleburne.
And you're saying most of the offenses are physical abuse?
Well, I would say that most of the offenses probably during COVID were physical. We have about half and half, sexual
Half
and
physical,
physical.
half sexual. And as a rule, maybe Fallon, either one of you could answer this, as a rule, the offender, relative, friend, unknown person?
Oh, over 95%, the offender is a known person.
Unknown person.
I don't have a number, but that feels right. It's usually someone the child knows.
It's very rare for a stranger to abuse a child.
So this would be a trusted adult?
Trusted adult.
Or could it be a younger sibling?
You know, siblings are often involved. We do have a lot of siblings or cousins, older kids in the family.
But the prevalence would be a trusted adult. And,
Yes.
and in a lot of cases, the parent.
Right.
So that's tough for a kid to disclose against a parent, isn't it?
It is.
You find that that's one of the reluctancies that you have to get through during your interview process?
It is.
So how do you make a kid comfortable enough to say, yes, my mommy and daddy did this to me?
Well, typically when DHR makes their first contact, they will make the person who's alleged to have abused the kid leave the home.
Okay, right.
And
right.
so by the time the child comes to us, usually they're safe. They're not with that person. You know, sometimes it hasn't worked out that way, and you know, it's just luck, or it's, you know, God provides the ability for them to disclose.
Well,
And we do a lot of rapport building. We're in a house that's friendly. We have toys when they come in that they can play with and get comfortable. If I'm doing the interview, I will spend some time out there with them while they're playing with the toys, just getting to know them a little bit, and then we go back to the interview room where people can watch us, and we do some more rapport building, and we do as much as we need to get the child comfortable to start talking about, you know, and sometimes we have to go the way of talking about, you know, what kind of touches are okay, you know, what not okay touches are, and talk about that. But usually by the time a child comes to us, they have some knowledge of why they're there, and they're ready to get it out.
Okay.
So oftentimes they'll just come right in and want to start talking. Let me just tell you, let's don't do all that. Let's just talk about what happened.
Well, Elaine, we're very glad you're on the show, and we're very glad that you provide these services for the kids in Calhoun and Cleburne County.
Thank you for
April
having
is
me.
Child Abuse Awareness Month. You'll be out there with your pinwheels
With our
and
pinwheels.
T-shirts and all that stuff.
We will.
And thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you
you
so
for
much
having
for
me.
everything you do to help our children.
Thank you.
And thank you for sticking with us. We're going to have our Crazy Criminal and the Crime Stoppers portion of our show up next. So stay with us here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Welcome to the Crime Stoppers portion of our show, where we ask your help for the following cases. First up, on February 1st, 2 storage units were burglarized at Sachs High School. A lawnmower battery, an extension cord, and a battery charger were all taken from that storage unit. And on March 16th, a gray 2014 Jeep Wrangler with the tag 7107BK4 was stolen from the MAPCO number 5124, Post Oak Road and 431 in Alexandria. The Jeep is lifted with 32-inch tires and has a small silver T-Rex sticker on the passenger side of the front windshield. The vehicle is believed to be occupied by a Tyler Johnson and is possibly in the Ohatchee, Wellington, or Etowah County areas. And on March 18th, the Rabbittown Cafe on Rabbittown Road was burglarized, although nothing appears to be taken at this time. And that's it for the Crime Stoppers cases this week. If you have any information on these cases, please call Crime Stoppers. That number, 1-833-251-7867.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Fallon, it's crazy criminal time.
It is. So this one comes to us from Colorado. We got Mr. Ortiz here in his official looking police vehicle there. Mr. Ortiz is not a police officer, though he does frequent jails. He decided he was going to take his truck there and go down the interstate and pull over some cars to fulfill his police fantasy. Oh. But the vehicle he decided to stop was, in fact, a real police officer. a deputy sheriff that was on his way to a detail. So he looked in his mirror and saw this vehicle and thought, that's a strange looking police car that I don't recognize. So he confirmed with 911 and they said no, it wasn't anybody trying to pull him over. So he stopped and he arrested Mr. Ortiz.
Outstanding. Yeah,
that's something I've always wished would happen to me. I've not had that happen yet.
That would be really cool. Of course, Colorado, you know, he's probably toking and joking on the highway there.
Probably so. They're a little loose up there.
They're pretty loose up there. He's probably like, whoa, dude, this will be great fun. Whoa. Probably the deputy that went up to his driver's side window probably said, you're in big trouble now. And he's like, whoa. Dude, you're a real cop.
Yeah. Well, and if you ever suspect that you're being pulled over by, you know, we do have unmarked cars, and there's some cars that you may not recognize or think was a police vehicle. It's okay to call 911 and check, and they should be able to tell you. Just know that, you know, we're people too. We don't know why you're not pulling over if we are legitimate. So you may expect a little bit of questioning when you do get stopped and we get up to your window, and that's okay.
Well, that brings about an interesting question, because I've seen this sometimes on videos, and I've seen it myself. You light up a car and they hit their emergency flashers. Mm-hmm. Is that like something that people should consider doing?
It does happen. You know, give us an idea that you're pulling over. If you're afraid to, or you think you're not in a good spot, generally we try to choose a spot that's safe to begin with. But if for some reason, especially this happens with women, if they're scared, if it's too dark, or you know they want to continue, just wave your hand out the window. You know, make sure we can see your hands when you do stop. Turn a light on, turn your flashers on, drive slow. You know, so that it lowers our alarm a little bit.
Yeah, make it obvious you're not trying to run. That you acknowledge you're being pulled over, and when you feel safe, pull over.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Of course, if they want to call 911 to verify if you're really that nervous, you know, but just indicate what's going on, and always keep your hands visible, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, we want you to be visible too, and stay with us and watch next week here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.